So we're going to start standing up. And you might like to just step your feet from side to side. And let your weight rock from side to side. And gradually, it's like a combination of feeling your way and deciding your way, somewhere in between, to get the feet to kind of settle in underneath the middle of the hips, what I call the eyes of the hips. Like in here, the front is a little hollow, and it's almost like little eye sockets where the hips live, where the ball of the hip socket inserts. So if you can feel your way into your feet being about that distance apart. Maybe a little narrower, maybe a little wider. You feel into it. So it's half deciding and using your mind and using your intellect, and it's half just feeling into it and using your intuition. And if you were going to make any part of your foot kind of aligned or in alignment or lined up in any way, even though the feet don't have any straight lines on them at all, they're incredibly wibbly and wobbly, but you might have a sense of the outside edges of the feet being in a kind of alignment, almost like parallel. So if you were going to line up any part of the foot, maybe there's a sense of turning the toes inward a little bit, so the outside edges of the feet are more parallel than the inside edges. And see how that's feeling. You can soften your knees a little bit, give your hips a wiggle from side to side. And then see about maybe closing your eyes, if that feels like an all right thing to do, or else soften your gaze, lower your gaze. And just allow your body weight to rock and sway a little, as it will inevitably do, especially if you have your eyes closed. And you have to figure out how to not fall over. So all that rocking and swaying is your body's way of figuring out how not to fall over. So just allow it, flow with it a little bit. And then you might find little micro adjustments can be made based not so much on what you're deciding by looking at your feet, but how it's feeling on the inside, until you feel really nicely balanced with your body weight evenly balanced over both feet and both knees and both hips. And then let your eyes open and just gaze straight ahead of you. And become aware of your breath. You might like to have a nice yawn. Or a sigh. And we're going to make a series of quite simple movements. Very simple, actually, to begin. So first simple movement. Can you let your arms lift up into the space in front of you and bring them comfortably above your head? And then can you bring your arms back down again? And we're going to do that with the breath in such a way that you inhale, float your arms up, and exhale, let your arms drop back down again. And continue in your own time. And if you're willing, now you know what you're doing, have a go at doing this with your eyes closed. So you can really be guided by how it feels from the inside. And really let the movement settle into a rhythm that is completely yours. The rhythm of your breathing in, and the arms lift up and out, and the arms slowly lower back down. Almost as if the breath were a series of waves rolling in and out. And your two arms are like two nice long heavy pieces of seaweed that are just being lifted and lowered by the waves. So there's a definite direction to the movement of the arms, but it's not tense. Just easy movement, almost effortless, almost seeing how little effort you could put in to getting this nice, straightforward movement. And then at the end of your next exhalation, leave your arms by your sides and resist, if you can, the urge to move or fidget or adjust anything, and just stay very quiet and still. So there's a special word in yoga in Sanskrit for stillness, or if you like, the restriction of movement, and it's nirodha. So somehow when we give things a nice Sanskrit word, it sounds more exotic. So we're going to be practicing a little bit of this evening with nirodha, just staying very quiet, staying very still. Let your eyes open, and we're going to make a similar movement, but this time as you inhale and raise your arms, see if you could also lift your heels off the floor so you're balancing on the balls of your feet. And then as you exhale, you lower the arms and you lower the heels, both together in one smooth, coordinated movement. So I suggest for this one that you keep your eyes open and gazing straight ahead. If it feels quite straightforward and you want to try it with your eyes closed, do go for it. It's more challenging. Particularly, sorry, I'd really like you to see if you can coordinate both of these movements with the breath. So you've got quite a big movement for your arms and a relatively small movement for your heels. But can you get both movements to last the same length as the breath? And try and keep your breath quite nice and soft and moving in the direction of slow. So not so slow that you run out of breath very quickly, but certainly not rushing. And at the end of your next inhalation, see if you might be able to hold that little balance without holding the breath. I've lost it. So you keep breathing out and back in and out and back in. And then leaving your head where it is in space. On an exhalation, very carefully lower the arms and lower the heels and arrive back down on both feet. And again, resist the urge to move or adjust or fidget. And see if you might just let your eyes close and settle for a little while in this standing asana, standing posture of Tadasana, the mountain pose, or it can also be called Samastiti, which Sama is same or even, Stiti to stay. Staying very still, very quiet, weight evenly balanced over both feet. Maybe you could slightly press down through the balls of your feet just underneath your big toes, and let your pubic bones in the front of the pelvis drop down away from the breastbone, and allow the breastbone to spontaneously lift up, shoulders dropping down away from the ears, and palms turned almost as if they were pointing back behind you. Imagine what it might be if ground level was at your waist. So your legs were like two long roots underground. Really steady. And each time you breathe in, it's as if you could draw something that allows you to grow in and up the legs. And each time you breathe out, it's as if you could grow further roots out through the soles of your feet and down into the earth. And see if you can find a way of balancing in this posture that requires the least amount of effort. So notice if you're holding tension anywhere, that could be just gently undone. You might let your face soften, have your back teeth parted, so your jaw is soft. You can let your knees be a little bit soft. Slightly tuck your chin and let your attention drop down into the center of the chest. And the center of the chest has another name, both in yoga practice, but in our language more generally, we often speak of a feeling of being heart-warmed, or sometimes we might really feel something from the very bottom of our hearts. So let's think of this space in the center of the chest now as the heart space. And I'd like you, as you stand in this pose, just to have the idea, in whatever way it makes sense to you, of allowing your heart to open. So it might be a sense of the front of the heart opening, or the breastbone lifting slightly. But there could be a sense of the back of the heart opening, space between the shoulder blades. You could open the sides of your heart like two big sash windows. You could open the top of the heart as if like opening up the roof or opening up the attic, letting the blue sky in. And maybe you can open the bottom of the heart, the very bottom of the heart, and allow for the rest of your being to be bathed in the warmth and love that lives in this space. Connecting the earth below with the sky above. And then open up your eyes. And with an inhalation, take your arms out to the side and just let your fingertips touch very lightly above your head. And exhale, bring the palms of your hands together down the midline and let your thumbs rest in front of the heart in a little namaste gesture. And we're going to do that twice more. So just opening the arms up wide as you breathe in and breathing out. A little namaste gesture. You can bow your head a little bit as well. So that just means that that part of me, the heart space in me, bows down to that part of you, or is greeting that part of you. I would like for us now to move into an all fours position, so hands and knees. So if you'd like to get yourself comfortable like that, I'm just going to adjust my camera slightly and hope it doesn't fall off. Okay, I think you'll be able to see better like that. Great, so we're going to come to an all fours kneeling position. And work with a very simple movement just to mobilize the spine, mobilize the back. So we're going to dip the back, lift the head, and let the front of the heart open. And then we're going to reverse that movement and tuck the chin, drop your tail, round your back, and allow the back of the heart to open. And see if you can begin to just let this movement flow with your breath in whichever way feels most satisfying to you. Inhaling one way and exhaling back the other way. And seeing if you might be able to do that simple movement with your eyes closed. So you can be guided really by the sensation that comes from inside. Really feeling all the different parts of your spine, the parts that might move more freely and the parts that might feel more stiff or stuck. And then make your way back to what feels like a more neutral kind of flat back or tabletop position. And this next part's an option. If you'd rather leave it out, you can leave it out. We're going to curl our toes under and just lift the hips. Come into a little downward facing dog. Let the head hang down between the arms, and it's as if you hung your spine upside down. So tail is up and head is down. And a sense of decompressing the spine. Turning it upside down. You can have your knees a little bit bent so that you get a feeling of sending your hips up and back. Make your back as long as possible. And then carefully bring your knees back down onto the mat, and maybe you can come into a child's pose. So untucking your toes, press your hips back towards your heels, and you can take your knees wider if that's more comfortable, and you can bring your forehead all the way to the floor, or you might put your fists one on top of the other. Rest your forehead on your fist like that for a rest. If child's pose isn't so accessible, a nice alternative is to drop to your forearms and simply take your hips back towards your heels as far as feels doable. And then make your way back up to all fours. So we're going to do those 3 postures again, or 4 postures, I suppose. But I'd like to invite you to try it with a little bit of sound. Now, depending on where you are and who else might be listening to you, you might feel more or less comfortable with this practice. So I'm going to be almost singing, actually, making some nice sounds. If it feels more comfortable for you just to hum, or even just to make the sound shh, or the sound, that works as well. We just want to connect a little bit with the throat. So we're going to make a little sequence that looks like this. So we breathe in, open the front of the heart, and breathing out, we're going to make the sound ah, and open the back. As you breathe in again, we'll come through and open the front of the heart, curl the toes, and then moving into the downward facing dog, we'll make the sound ooh. As you breathe in, you lower your knees. And then moving back to the child's pose or your resting pose, we're going to hum. And you stay there in your child's pose until your breath settles. And then come back to hands and knees, and I'd like for us to work through that pattern another 2 times through. If you'd rather substitute the downward facing dog for a second cat pose like this, that works nicely as well. So we're going to inhale, slide the breastbone forward, open the front, exhale with an ah. Inhale, open the front body, curl the toes, exhale with an ooh. Ooh. Inhale, lower the knees, and then exhale into your resting pose with a lovely mm. And one more time through. And when you've completed, see if you can stay very still and very quiet. And just let everything settle, letting your breath settle. And paying attention to how that feels. And now make your way to lying on one side. And it doesn't really particularly matter which side you lie on to start with. It might just be a matter of lying on the side where it's easiest for you to see your screen. I'm going to suggest you use a pillow or 2 pillows or a little stack of blankets, something that you can put underneath your head. And if you have something else, like another pillow or a folded blanket that you can put between your knees and ankles, even better. And ideally, we want this to really feel quite comfortable. The side that you're lying on, if you need extra padding, I've got 2 mats here. So sometimes you need extra padding for your hip and your shoulder. And you need to be careful, let me just undo this. You need to be careful not to end up a bit like I am here with this arm all sort of squashed and uncomfortable. You can actually take your bottom arm and slide it out from underneath you so there's more spaciousness here. And the arm feels quite free. And we're going to bring the palms of the hands together. And you just very gently slide the fingertips of your top hand beyond the fingertips of your bottom hand. And see if you can make the beginnings of a circle by tracing your fingers along the floor. Now, at a certain point, you won't be able to go any further without lifting your fingers up. So just feel for that point and come floating back again. So I'd like you to find a quite soft and almost a little bit hypnotic movement here. Think of it not so much as an exercise or a stretch, but just a gentle little stroking movement. You could imagine you were tracing a little circle in the sand. It's a bit daydreamy and soft, lovely. And you might like to involve your breath, that's up to you. You can inhale up and exhale back, so it's got that wave-like quality as well. And it's almost like what we're doing here is storing up some potential energy in the shoulder and also really getting a feel for the direction of movement that we're about to embark on, which is absolutely to let your fingers slide up and then over, if you can, over the back of your head, but without rolling onto your back. And we're just going to go through half a circle, a bit like you're tracing a rainbow over your head, and then all the way back round again. And we'll do a few like that. So you're making a rainbow over the top of your head, and how it looks on me and my shoulder might be slightly different to how it looks on you. So if you like, now you know what we're doing, you could just let your eyes close. So again, you're really guided by how this feels in your body. And we're looking for a comfortable movement. If you don't have any kind of comfortable movement that looks anything like this, maybe you've got a shoulder injury or some stiffness or discomfort, and I'd like to suggest that you find a movement with your arm, with your top arm, that is comfortable, some direction of movement, however it looks, whatever it is, a little wiggle or a circle, whatever it is. So don't force your arm to move in a way that it doesn't want to. So we're going to do one more like this, the rainbow that just comes up and over and then back. And then we're going to unfurl this into a whole 360-degree circle. So we're going to come up and over and then all the way around. So it's like a down and under, and your top hand can brush over your top hip and back to where it began, stacked on top of the bottom hand, and so on. And it makes some big circles. So again, if you'd like to involve your breath, that can be quite nice. You could go up and over on your inhalation, and then down and under on your exhalation. And you can do this with your eyes closed or with your eyes softly open, but either way, it's very daydreamy. And with as little effort as possible. So particularly for the rest of your body that isn't moving, you want to have a sense that it's very comfortable and very settled, very steady, and there's just this very nice kind of floaty feeling for the top arm. And we're going to do quite a few more of these, so you please take little breaks as and when you might need. Or ideally you do it at just the right amount of effort, so in fact you find that almost it feels like something you could just continue indefinitely in some way. And what often happens after a little while is where it felt at the beginning like a shoulder movement, you might start to be able to feel more sensation in kind of in from the shoulder more towards the center of the chest. So we start to get a little bit more sensation around the thoracic spine, behind the breastbone, between the shoulder blades. Perhaps. So if you like, you can close your eyes, and sometimes it's easier to feel things and sense things when we can really put our attention inside. So we'll go around just another 3 times. And at the end of this last big arm circle, we're going to settle into stillness, palms together. Just stay very quiet. And then disturbing yourself as little as possible, I'd like you to roll over onto your back. So if you've got something between your knees, you can take it with you. And just come onto your back and spread your arms out wide if you can. I'm going to have to go under my table here. Spread your arms out wide and take a moment to feel the sensations in your upper back and compare and contrast the sensations in your arms and in your shoulders. Stay for a few breaths. Compare the sensations in the left side of the chest and the right side of the chest. And then we're going to roll to the other side and repeat that practice. For you, you could just roll, turn the other way. I know that means you won't be able to see your screen, but we're going to do the same thing again. So if that's easiest for you, just turn the other way. I'm actually going to turn myself around completely so I'm not talking into my wall. And I can lie on my other side and still talk to you. So you want support for your head and ideally something between your knees a little bit bent. Make sure you're not squashing the underside arm too much. Start with the palms together. Extend it out along the floor. And then we want to build this up quite slowly so as to soften the shoulder a little bit. If you slide the fingertips of your top palm slightly beyond the fingertips of the bottom palm. And we're going to start by just, like maybe we're lying on the beach and just tracing the beginnings of a little circle in the sand. So it's very light. And you're keeping your fingers on the floor. And when I say that, I don't mean you're like pushing to see how far you can go keep your fingers on the floor. It's just really very gentle. And when you feel that place where the fingers want to lift off, you just start to come back again. And you may like to involve your breath. And you can do it with your eyes closed, if that feels nice. Sometimes it's really obvious that one shoulder feels quite different from the other. Not always. You can be curious about things like that. Let's just do one more and then we're going to start the rainbow. So in the rainbow, you let your fingers slide up and off, but we're just going to go through a semicircle up and over your head and then back around. And it's not about twisting particularly, so don't feel like you need to roll onto your back. Just stay on your side and let your arm move through its comfortable range of movement. And remember, if you haven't got a comfortable range of movement that looks anything like what I'm doing here, then you just find your own way. Find a thing that you can do that would give your arm and shoulder a comfortable movement. Notice if you're starting to speed up a little bit and see if you can keep it smooth and soft and steady. This kind of wave-like motion of the body with the breath. So we're going to do one more rainbow. Nice and soft and smooth, not too fast. And then let this movement completely unfurl and go around the full 360-degree circle. Up and over and then down and under. And if you'd like to really involve your breath with this, you could be inhaling for the up and over and then exhaling for the down and under. Making a nice circle with your arm that actually coordinates very nicely with the circle of the breath or the cycle of the breath. All sorts of things in life go up and then come down, like the sun. And the moon. And the tide. And all sorts of other things that grow and then die away. So it can be really quite soothing and reassuring to remember that it's quite normal for things to be undulating, ebbing and flowing, for us to have ups and then downs. We're always traveling up and over and then down and under. So we're going to travel around with this arm another 3 times. Try and keep your pace the same. Notice if you speed up once you know we're nearly finished. Really enjoy the sensation in your shoulder and see if it's moving at all from the shoulder inwards towards the center of the chest. And then finally coming back to a still point, resisting the urge to move or to fidget or to do anything else, and just let the palms come back together and settle quietly and still for a little while. And then disturbing yourself as little as possible, roll back over onto your back. And if possible, spread the arms out wide, shoulder height. You can keep your knees bent. Just spread the arms, pay attention to the sensations, again, across the upper back and in the shoulders, in the center of the chest. Stay for a few breaths. Be aware of the sensations in the sides of the ribs, side rib cage. And then carefully roll back over onto either side, just so that you can ease yourself up to sitting. And we're going to lie down again in a moment and practice a yoga nidra, a guided relaxation practice. And you could do that in any position of your choice, any comfortable position. I had an idea of something that might feel particularly nice and spacious and goes quite nicely with this practice. So I'm going to show you a couple of different ways of setting it up, and you can have a go, and if it's lovely, wonderful, and if it doesn't work at all and feels awful, throw it out and do whatever you feel most comfortable doing to be really comfortable for this practice. So what I thought might be nice is to do a supta baddha konasana, reclining bound angle pose. So the bound angle, or the baddha konasana, is this, where you bring the feet together and the knees out to the side. But when we do this as a resting pose, we don't want it to be a stretch particularly, we just want a nice feeling of opening for the hips. So if we were going to do this lying down, we need some support for the knees. And yes, I have got a yoga bolster. So a straightforward way of doing that might be to put something like a yoga bolster underneath your knees, feet together, and then the bolster catches your knees so that there's not too much of a stretch. Well, ideally no stretch at all in the inner thighs. If you don't have a yoga bolster, or if you'd like to use your yoga bolster to make a little reclining throne to rest in, you can use your yoga bolster, if you've got one, to lie back on. I've just propped the end of mine up with a brick. You could use some books, so it's sloping a little bit, and that avoids you ending up having a really big arch in your lower back. So it would be something like this. But now you see I haven't got anything to support my knees, so some substitutions. So this is just 2 scarves which I've tied together. And if I sit with my feet together and my knees wide, I can take the 2 scarves and loop them around and tie them again. So in effect, I've tied a loop. And it just holds the knees. And it's really hard to get it tight enough. You usually end up with it like a couple of millimeters, a little bit wider than you really like it to be. So if you crisscross it in the middle, that takes care of that. And it looks more stylish, I believe. So you've got this little infinity loop thing happening just to catch the knees like that. And then if you've got a yoga bolster as well, you can use that to lie back on, and you pop your pillow on the end of the bolster. Okay, and you can do something like this. Supta baddha konasana. Now, if you haven't got a yoga bolster, don't panic. So what you might have, let's throw the yoga bolster away because not everybody's got one. So first and foremost, you might find that you're quite happy just to lie flat and have your knees open like this, supported by the scarf or some cushions. Or you can try this with a couple of just regular pillows from your bed. And what you do is you stagger them, stair-step them, or folded blankets, nice firm folded blankets or towels. Make a kind of set of stairs, flight of stairs. You sit on the floor and get the bottom step quite close to your sacrum, and you can lie yourself back onto this. So you're a little bit sloped at an angle. And that allows us to rest in this position with the hips open without having too much of a deep arch in the lower back, which can get uncomfortable after a little while. Okay, so you can have a little play around with your with what you've got at home and see if you can get a supta baddha konasana set up. If not, any kind of resting pose will do. I want to show you one more little piece of prop magic, which feels particularly nice in the supta baddha konasana, and it involves a blanket which needs to be quite long and thin. So I'm just getting my blanket the right way around. And this is to wrap up your arms. This does take a little bit of practice, but once you've worked out how to do this, it's the most wonderful thing. So basically, I'm going to put my arms in this position with my hands on my lower belly. But here, I have to tense my arms to make that happen because they haven't got anything to land on. Now, you could just put something here, some books or some blocks under your elbows. Or the trick I want to show you here with this blanket, so you pull it up over the top of you, so kind of from your, just under your chin, down to your tummy. And here's my hands. So I'm going to lift up my arms so the blanket drapes over them. I'm taking my right hand here and pulling the blanket underneath my left arm. And then I use my left hand to pull the blanket under my right arm. And it makes a really nice little sling to hold the arms. So I can now leave my hands on my tummy, but my arms can rest, and it feels so comforting. But I will say I have been practicing that for several years. If you find yourself getting in a tangle trying to do that, don't worry, that's quite normal, but it gets easier with practice. And you can also use some books or blocks under your elbows. Or just simply let your arms relax to the sides. And once you've got yourself settled in a resting pose of your choice, see if you can really now commit to stillness, to nirodha, restricting movement, restricting the movement of the physical body. And restriction sounds like such a negative word, doesn't it? Nobody likes to be restricted. And yet sometimes a restriction can in fact be a support. And in this case, let's think of it in that way, that we are inviting the physical body to stay completely still because it doesn't have to do anything. And we're not asking the physical body to stay still through force. We're inviting the physical body to stay still through ease, through comfort, because of a sense of having arrived at a point in the day where there is nothing else to be done. So I am hoping that you can find that place for yourself, finding a way of arranging your limbs, your arms and your legs, and arranging your head, arranging your whole body, so that you can be truly at ease and let go. And it can be very nice once you've found that place to prepare for the practice of Yoga Nidra with a little yawn or a sigh. A releasing breath. Using long exhalations to relax and let go. Becoming increasingly aware of the earth at your back. The support in place for the back surface of the body. Having a sense perhaps of the back of the body slightly softening or spreading. Connecting with the feeling of earth below. And a sensation perhaps of slightly rooting in or rooting down. And allow for that earthy rooting sensation in the back of the body to provide a foundation for a more light and spacious feeling in the front of the body. Being aware of the space all around, the sky above, and the sensation perhaps of opening up or even growing into this wide open space. And now be aware of the breath. And you can let the breath just be however it is. See if you can stay very still and very quiet and just catch yourself in the act of being breathed. Paying attention to the sound of the breath. And paying attention to the sensation of the breath, the feeling of the breath. You might feel the breath in the nostrils. You might feel the breath deep inside the body. And now allow your mind's attention to move around the body in a systematic way, as if like bringing a light and shining it into each part of the body so as to perceive it more clearly. Beginning on the forehead, allowing your attention to settle at the point between the eyebrows. And focusing the attention here. As if gathering up your attention, gathering up the light of your awareness. And then allow it to move down and in behind the eyes. And then out towards the ears. You could go over towards the right ear, and then the left ear, and then to both ears. And then see if you can find the place directly midway between the ears, behind the eyes, between the ears, in the center of the head. And now move the attention down to the base of the throat and out across the tops of both shoulders together and all the way down the length of both arms together. Shoulders and elbows, wrists, backs of the hands, thumbs and each of the fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And leave your attention for a little while in the palms of the hands. Welcoming sensation from the palms of the hands, the right palm and the left palm, both palms together. And then return the attention to the base of the throat. And then travel down through the midline, the center line of the body, from the base of the throat into the space just behind the breastbone, the center of the chest, the heart space. And from here, it's like you could shine your light out into the left side of this space, and then into the right side, into the front, and into the back, into the roof of this space, and down into the floor or the basement of this space. Feeling the whole of this heart space filled with light, and welcoming sensation from all around this space. Moving the attention now down and into the space behind the belly button, the navel. And welcoming sensation now from all around the waist, the front and the back, sides, all around the waist. And now moving the attention down and in to the center of the pelvis. Thinking of the pelvis like a basin or a bowl. And letting the light of your attention move right down into the bottom, the base of the pelvis, into the back and the front, the sides. Welcoming sensation from all around the pelvis. Whole of the pelvic space filled with the light of awareness. And letting your awareness now move out into the hips, both hips together. And all the way down both legs. Hips, knees, ankles, tops of the feet, tips of the toes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And leave your attention for a little while in the soles of the feet. Right foot, left foot, both feet together. Welcoming sensation from the soles of the feet. It might be tingling, or warmth, or coolness. The right foot may feel different from the left foot. There's nothing in particular you're supposed to be feeling. Just being aware that the feet are there and you can sense them and perceive them. And now move your attention back to the palms of the hands. And welcome sensation from the palms of the hands. And again, there's nothing in particular you're meant to be doing or feeling. Just seeing what's there. Aware that you have hands. And an ability to perceive the sensations in the hands. So now bring your attention, your intelligence to the top of the head. Resting the attention on the top of the head, it's as if you could shine the light down over the whole of the body and perceive now the whole body as one. The whole body, all of the parts of the body, all together, all the way through. Perceiving the whole body. And the sensations in the whole of the body. Perceiving the vitality in the body. The life force. And the breath. Allowing itself in and out with no effort whatsoever. And you may allow a feeling of gladness or gratitude for this pulsation of life within the body. And see where it is in the body you feel that gladness. Now be aware again of the earth at your back, the earth below. And the space above, or the sky above. And see if you can find a place within where earth meets sky. Where you're neither in the past nor the future, but just here, right now. Welcome now the sound of the bell. And welcome the sounds where you are, the sounds around you, the sounds nearby, and the sounds further away. And work your attention out and around the space all around you and see how many different sounds you can hear. And then listen to all the sounds at once, like just one sound or one soundscape of this moment right now. Connect with your sense of touch. Feel your body again resting on your props, cushions, bolsters, blankets, whatever you've used to support the physical body for this practice. Feel the texture of clothing against your skin or blankets against your skin. Now feel again the touch of the breath in the nostrils, or moving inside the body. Begin to gently deepen your breath and know that this practice is drawing to a close. Connect with your senses of smell and taste. Lick your lips or run your tongue along your teeth. And gently wriggle your fingers and wriggle your toes. Yawning and stretching, know this practice is now complete. If you have been resting in supta baddha konasana, my suggestion is that you use your hands, free your arms, and gently use your hands to help guide your knees back together. And then from there, straighten out your legs. Just have a clear image in your mind of where you are, what you look like, where you are, which room you're in, who else might be with you. Now, this practice of Yoga Nidra is now complete. The practice has now ended. You could carefully roll over onto one side and remain on your side while you let your eyes open and adjust to the light around you. And then as and when you're ready, come up into a seated posture of some sort. So I'm kneeling here on my mat, but you could sit with your legs crossed, you could sit up in a chair, you could sit on the edge of your settee. It doesn't really matter. What is nice is to get a feeling a little like what we were trying to have in Tadasana, in our standing posture, that maybe from the waist down we could be underground, that the legs are like roots just really settled down and they're not disturbing you in any way. They're earthed and grounded. So there could be a sense of lightness for the upper body as it grows up towards the sky above, the space above. In the same way that a plant doesn't strive and stretch, it just gently grows towards the sun. And your head could be the bloom on top that balances. Have your hands resting down on your lap. And let me explain what we're about to do now. We're going to do a little practice of Brahmari and palming the eyes. So it's more humming. If it feels nicer to you just to exhale, that's fine as well. You can do this with a nice vibrational hum. And we'll inhale and turn the palms upward. And then with a hum or an exhalation, you bring the heels of your hands against your cheekbones. Close your eyes and let your eyes rest in the palms of your hands. You can take a little bit of the weight of your face on your hands. We'll leave the hands over the eyes like this for 3 hums or exhalations. And then you open up your eyes behind the closed palms and gradually let the light in and then bring them down. So just so you know what's going to happen, it feels nicest to do this with your eyes closed. So if you'd like to, you could close your eyes now. And then with an inhalation, turn your palms upwards and begin. allow your eyes to open behind your palms. And then just gently open up your fingers to let a little bit of light in. Gradually letting the light in. And then when you're ready, you can lower your palms back down, and this time leave them palms turned upward. And be aware of the sensations in the palms of your hands. And with an inhalation, bring the palms of your hands gently together. And exhaling, guide the joined palms into the center of your chest.